So good afternoon all, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present the topic, the regulatory strategy, export possibilities for Indian agrochemical industry. So in the morning session, we have listened more about how the Indian pesticide industry is going to rock the floor. And as per the many research teams, we have learned that the industry is going to be going to do the best, and we have many expectation from the global platform that the Indian chemical industry is going to take the hold and supply the pesticide to cater the world's need. So begin with my presentation. So this is the content for my presentation where I'm talking about what is the pesticide import-export scenarios in the current situation, the segmentation of the pesticide market, and the major highlights of the pesticide import in the various regions like Asia, America, Europe, Africa, and oceanic countries. So as an introduction, as everybody has mentioned that we have the potential to become the first in the market of pesticides. So global pesticide use has increased by 80% since last decade. So one can see the potential of this industry in the upcoming year. If you go and see the market by the type of this pesticide industry, the mostly used is herbicides, followed by the fungicides, and then the insecticides. Only the herbicide market, due to various environmental conditions, is taking the 50% of the stake into the global market. Currently, India is in the world's fourth largest producer of the pesticides and has the potential to cater the need of the global market. As per the various reports, and also we have heard in the morning sessions, like the World Bank, they has announced that the India has a significant market size that can provide the good opportunity for Indian industry to have a market in the global scenarios, and we can compete with the major pesticide producers in the world. So if we see why this strategy, the regulatory strategy is required. As mentioned by the secretary, he has said that the people are coming and they are asking for the permits, import permits, export permits, and then there is a glitch, like what requirements we are going to complete. So this breach is a regulatory framework that one can understand prior you are scoping your business. So the registration strategy is mainly dependent upon the aspects that what is the portfolio of your market, what is the data availability with you when you are starting your business and you are planning for the registration. Then have you done your market research and have you find out the potential market particular to your products. Then the selection of the right country of the like export. Then selection of the correct registration categories, because as from our regulatory authority, you can understand there are various category of registrations for the active products and for the formulated products. So you have to find the right regulatory category that is applicable for your product. And then the time taken by the authority, which authority is giving you the fast registration, followed by the complying the data requirements. So if you see the use of the pesticide by region, Asia is the largest user of the pesticide, followed by America, Europe, Africa, and the oceanic countries. If you see the major export-import data of the pesticides, India is importing the pesticide. On the 6th position, India stands over there, while in export, we are in between 4th to 5th. If you see the segmentation of this pesticide market, as I explained, it is Asia, America, Europe, Africa, and Australia and New Zealand. So let's talk about the major countries in the Asia region, and I can introduce you to the regulatory framework, and I can give the highlights that will help you understand what is going on and what is the struggle one should take care prior moving toward the registrations. So the registration of the company is important in these Asian countries. You cannot simply go and apply for the permit and you can start with your pesticide business. You have to have physically present in the Asian countries. As on the similar path like India is following, we have to have the pesticides first in the insecticide schedule, and then the authority gives you the permit to use those formulated products in the country. Same approach is applicable in the countries like Singapore and Philippines, that you have to have first you have to include your active substance in that government registry. After that only you can directly go for the formulation registration. If your active substance is not in the registry, then you have to first involve your active substance into the registry, and then you can operate your business over there. The efficacy and the residue data is the most important thing to fulfill, and based upon which you can get the registration in these countries. In the developing countries, the regulatory approach is slightly different. They are more based on the status of your product and the active substance in the other developed countries market. What is the status in Europe? What is the status in US EPA? If it is a safe over there, then the registration is quite easier in these countries. The other thing one should take into consideration, that the complicated risk assessment system is not there in the Asian countries, which can save on your time, the data requirements, and all those kind of things, which are a hurdle for the marketing your product. And the certificate of registration in the country of origin is mandatory. That means you have to have the registration certificate with CIBRC, and then only you can present over there, and that can prove that this market is existed somewhere, and that is why you are applying over there for the registration. So moving towards America. So in America, the United States and the Brazil, you can see the major importer of the pesticides. So in the United States, the FIPRA is the major act which regulates this kind of business of the pesticide registration, and the permission is given by the US EPA, that is the separate agency. The regulatory compliances in US is a bit different as compared to the other countries, and it is a bit complex as well. To obtain the registration in US market, you have to see the requirements of both the state region and also the federal region, and maybe the data requirements are different from the state to the federal states, so one has to be very careful over there. Then also one has to take into consideration from the economic view that your registration you have to maintain by paying the fees in the US, which is not a general practice in the other countries. Brazil. Brazil is one of the potential market for the Indian industry, because many of the pesticide has been imported from other regions to the Brazil. But one has to be, is that right? So one has to check that the complex and the lengthy regulatory system, how you overcome that, and you can have the successful registration in this country. After the United States and the Brazil, then you have this Canada, Mexico, Argentina, and Chile, Peru, because the in-house production of the pesticides is very less, so they are more majorly dependent upon the export things. If you go for the Europe is quite complex, but they have harmonizer systems. So this European Rule 1107/2009, this sets out the regulatory requirements and the data requirements over here, that someone can start and plan their registration over there. But and they also have the zonal application system. So Europe is divided into different zones, and you have to enter the market from that perspective, so to obtain the registration in particular member states. But here you have to take one thing into consideration. Though it is a zonal application, you have to check the requirements of the member state, because the member state is responsible for the registration of the product into the market. Then here, though the 1107/2009 regulation is there, they have another data requirement kind of guidelines, which is 283 and 284. These are basically for the actives and for the formulated product. And these data requirements you have to take into consideration, and you have to fill this data requirement to obtain the registration. Also, one thing is there in the European market, that they have a strong risk assessment system. Unless and until each segment of the environment, the risk is acceptable, they are not going to allow the registration of the market. Then now EU is coming up with the registration of this we can say this biopesticides, the biological pesticides. So they have published 4 new laws, and they have given many requirements and the data requirements specific to your products. These data requirements are less, then the process is fast, the regulatory system is flexible, so that allows to enter the more safer pesticides into the EU market, and that can be a very great chance for the Indian pesticide industry to start with. Moving towards Africa, if you see in Africa, as on the basis of US and Europe, this Kenya and Morocco, they are developing very fast at the lightning speed in respect of this pesticide regulatory framework. Being an agriculture economy, the demand for the pesticide is great in these countries, and they are importing many of the pesticides to fulfill their requirements, since this in-house production, they have the limitations. Again, they have the same similarity in the data requirement, chemistry, ecotox, tox, and the efficacy and the residue, the region specific you have to fulfill. Kenya has recently updated the risk assessment requirements, and they are now adopting the good process to have the pesticide into their market. Lastly, the Australia and New Zealand, since the buzzer is going on. So in Australia and New Zealand, also this Australian market is the potential market for the Indian pesticide industry to export, because in Australia and New Zealand, they are also dependent majorly on the exported formulation and active substances, since many of the manufacturing units in the Australia and New Zealand, they have limitations and they have stopped, not exactly, but have reduced the manufacturing. So here also you have the data requirements, tox, ecotox, and those kind of segments, and the risk assessment you have to take into consideration, and the efficacy and residue as per the regional requirements. So overall summary, India is the 4th largest exporter of the agrochemicals. Then one advantage for Indian pesticide industry is we have the seasonal requirements for the pesticides. We have 3 seasons, and as per the crops, we have to use the pesticides. So if you start with the export, you can have the year down manufacturing in your plant, so plant is not going to stop for if you are not having the wheat in the next season. Then it is one of the large revenue generating industry, as we have heard many times, and this morning sessions also. So you have the great possibility through export, you can have the great revenues to your company. Then this increased demand of export, it will definitely help you in establishing the world-class facilities of the manufacturing, so you can have the great sustainable way of working in India as well. Then it also helps the Indian industry to take that revenue and invest it into the research and development of the new molecule chemistry, because we are using the traditional agrochemicals, and nowadays the world is moving to the safer chemicals, and many of the chemicals are going bad. So you have to take care of that also when you are planning your registration strategy. So thank you, and allowing me to speak extra 5 minutes, and we are there to support you in a global regulatory framework for pesticide registration. Thank you.